Hi everyone and welcome back to part 2 of my BMW E39 Touring restoration. In the previous part we disconnected the rear axle from the chassis of the car, we disassembled all the components. In today's video we're going to be removing a lot of rust, we're going to be spraying some paint, stone chip, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of components that we need to restore in order to continue on with the assembly process, which is going to be in the next part. So if you want to see how I do this, stick around and I'll show you how. So this is after the work with the needle gun, and you can see the results. All these heavy lumps of rust are absolutely gone. I have used a drill brush here on the aluminium, but I will take that plate off at the back. We're going to drain the oil now and we're going to take this plate apart. We're going to clean it up a little bit more, paint it, and then we're going to protect this with Brunox first, and then we'll decide whether it will need further recoating or we'll just leave it like that, as Brunox is epoxy based rust converter. We might just be able to finish it and leave it like that, but we'll decide that later on when it comes to that point. Now you've got obviously the filler plug and the drain plug, which we're going to need to open this now with an impact. This is a 14mm Allen key, so let's get that off. So far I've drained just about 1 liter. There's a little bit more, so obviously when you're filling, you're gonna fill until it leaks from the fill hole, but we roughly know we're gonna need about 1 liter of Diff oil. This is a 16mm socket. I'm gonna test a new product here, so I'm gonna be refurbishing this differential, and in general I'm gonna be using this new product underneath the chassis of the car. So this is Brunox rust converter with epoxy. So if you're gonna use this, you're gonna have to apply at least 2 coats. I'm gonna probably apply 3 just to be 100% sure that everything is sealed. So it takes several hours between each coat. They say between 6 to 12 hours. I'm gonna leave it 24 hours between each coat just to be 100% sure. And I've rinsed it with brake cleaner, so I'm gonna directly apply this Brunox first coat now. Because it's epoxy and it's gonna be messy, I'm gonna put a bit of cardboard on this trolley here. So let's get started. Good practice, you should never dip in the drum, and decant what you need in a jar or a plastic container, whatever you want to use. I'm gonna give you a quick update on the rust situation here. So I've done a little bit of work off camera. Hopefully you can see this. So I used this needle gun. This is needle impact gun. I've shown you this one before. This was used in the Diff restoration and other parts. I've quickly cleaned up the rust situation here on the left hand side. Also, what I have done is I cleaned up the rust, the surface rust on the air tank, on the left air tank, and I removed the bolts so I can drop it and then clean up a bit more detailed around it. So I haven't done anything on this side. You can see the difference. There's actually a little bit more rust than normal on the right hand side than the left hand side. So what I will do is I'm gonna attack the rust with the tank in place. I'm gonna clean up the surface of the tank where it's in place, then we're gonna take it off and then continue on with all the removal of the heavy rust, all these lumps of silicone and obviously the underbody protection that was used in the BMW factory. So we're gonna take that off, and I want to point out something I noticed. It seems like there's a weak point here, and this bracket or this support piece of metal has failed. So what I will do is I'm going to clean it up with sandpaper with my pneumatic sander. And then what I will do is I'm going to clean this up, either remove this piece or apply another piece on top of it. And I'm planning to use stainless so it doesn't happen again. I think it would be pretty easy to weld. I have got very good access here, so there will be no excuse and should hopefully be a good job. So other than that, I believe for a 22-year-old car, the chassis is in pretty good condition. Probably one of the better ones I've seen over the years. There are some rusty spots here and there in all the obvious parts that were exposed to the road salt and water. So we're going to try and address this, and hopefully it's going to be a good job. I have to remove this shield here under the exhaust. So when I take that off, after we remove the rust, what I might do is I'm going to give the rear of the vehicle a bit of a rinse to get off the mud, so then the body stone chip sticks a little bit better to the surfaces. We'll try our best with this one as well. I'm sure it's going to be times better than what it is at the moment, and will protect the car for hopefully another 10, 15, maybe 20 years. This is definitely not bad. Obviously have some rust here, which we're going to take off. These are actually the steel washers. We're going to clean this up, same as this one, and I have to take that off completely because it's completely rusted. So now we're going to clean up on the right hand side here. You're going to see quite a few lumps of rust falling off this chassis. So let's see what we can do. Clean it up and then treat it with Brunox. Let's get started. I just want to explain to you why I'm doing this. When I was taking the exhaust off, this bolt was completely rusted and seized on the nut. So now what I've done is I've cut the metal so I can remove the bolt and install a new one, and then I'm gonna weld it back in place. I'm going to start applying the first coat of Brunox. Right, I want to show you where we are at the moment with the project. So I've done all the rust converting with Brunox, and I've applied, as per the instructions, 2 coats. In some places I've actually done it 3 times. These plates are stainless, and the screws here that you can see, they're stainless as well. These are stainless Torx bolts, which I've run through the back. So I drilled a hole in the middle. I had a template which I marked exactly where it should be. So anyway, don't want to spend too long at this. This is the other one that was completely rotten, so this is really not going to be visible much when we spray the stone chip. And you can see all the areas that I've treated with Brunox. They've turned kind of really dark purple black, and this is obviously epoxy based coating, so it's going to be very robust, and it's going to be resistant to corrosion. I've also installed a new stainless steel rod here. Had to cut and then pull it out, insert it from the inside, because it had a captive nut which broke during the removal of the exhaust. So if this is too long, then I'm going to shorten it, but at least I have plenty of length at the moment. All these bits I want to show you. These are the pressure tanks, both sides. I've treated these with Brunox as well, and then I'm going to spray with chassis paint and stone chip. So I want to show you what I've done off camera. I've treated some other bits and pieces that I noticed there that there was a little bit of corrosion. So this is all being redone. I installed these plates here and I welded them in place. This is stainless again, so they tend to tear in here, then they corrode and they snap in the middle as well. So I've done that off camera, of course. So it looks pretty much original, and you can see the Brunox has reacted to the rust and it has sealed it. Same as the other side. Stainless plate. Sorry, this looks really messy on camera here, but when it's sprayed with stone chip, you're not gonna see anything. You're not gonna notice anything unusual. Just looks messy with the Brunox because it's so colorful and has such a reaction to the metal. So I've done all points, all these brackets for the pressure tanks. And the next step, what I'm planning to do is to give this whole thing a rinse, and then obviously I'm gonna spray the stone chip, So first we may have to remove this rear bumper and then clean everything up really well. Not too bad here above the wheel arches. Still need to treat this for rust as it's corroded again pretty badly. So I'm gonna treat this with Brunox and seal it properly this time. Last time I used this crappy water-based rust converter, which didn't do a great job at all. So hopefully this time it will work. So as I said, next step is to give everything a rinse and then let it dry and then spray chassis paint and then stone chip. I don't think you're going to see much difference on camera here, but I spent about 2 or 3 hours rinsing the whole chassis underneath with water, so there was an awful lot of mud and sand that came off. So obviously we're doing this with a purpose for the paint and stone chip to stick properly to the metal, to the material. And now I'm gonna tape up all these sensitive parts, like the electrical plugs, which are not many, there's only 2 of them. And then you obviously want to watch your brake pad wear sensors and speed sensors, so you want to keep an eye on that. And then we're gonna apply 1 layer of chassis paint. The paint dries fairly quickly, and after this we're gonna cover it again, maybe all the bits that need a second coat, and then finally we will apply stone chip. But before I do that, I think it's going to be a good idea to remove the rear bumper, and that will obviously allow me to tidy up these rusty bits here as well. So that is the plan. Let's get started. I've had to remove the bumper so I can do the job properly, so I have everything exposed now without having to worry about spraying stone chip on the bumper or places where I shouldn't spray stone chip. So this is going to also allow me to repair this. There's quite a fair bit of rust on this wheel arch here, and we definitely don't want that to spread and continue and go up the arch. So we're gonna clean this up with a wire brush and a grinder, or a grinder wire brush, and then we're going to treat this with Brunox, same as the previous rust underneath, where it's nice and clean now. It's all been sprayed with chassis paint, and this is obviously just one of the layers before we apply the final grey stone chip to match the rest of the car. So as you can see, the tanks have been sprayed and rust converted, totally sealed, all the brackets and everything. So this is a proper job now. It does look shiny on the camera, but it's a lovely matte dull finish, and it looks really good as it is. Most people will probably leave it as it is. I, of course, knowing me, what I'm like, I'm gonna do it again with thicker stone chip and much more of a rubbery kind of surface to the stone chip. want to show you how to remove the handbrake cables. I've obviously cut these because they were very, very difficult to come out of the hub. So you can just see to go into these pipes here, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. We're going to have to access the driver's seat. I've already done this off camera, so you need to pop this leather cover off. When you do that, just lift the lever up, and then you've got two nuts. These are locked. You can mark it if you want. In my case it was about 30 millimeters from the tip of the cable, so I'm gonna put these nuts here because I don't want to lose them, and I'm gonna do the same with the other one. But now, just before we pull this out from the bottom, you want to push the little square through the hole here, and you want to do the same with this one. Now let's go underneath and pull this out completely. And this will come out, same as this. I find it was a little bit easier to actually put the lever down rather than to have it in up position. So this should be much easier now to insert the new ones and then install everything in place. I'm going to close the lid on the diff here. You can see I've refurbished that as well, so everything looks well and clean. So what I'm going to do is I've already cleaned this with a straight edge. This is my carbide scraper, and I'm going to apply a little bit of Victor Reigns of Sill. I'm going to spread it with my finger, and I'm going to put the lid and torque it. I'm going to pre-tighten these first, and then I'm going to apply final torque. But before I install the diff on the subframe, I'm going to open this filler cap. I'm going to add 1 liter exactly. For my diff is exactly 1 liter. In your case, it might be a little bit different. There's different diffs, different gearboxes, whether it's manual or automatic, so you may have some difference there. So check the user manual through BMW ISTA, and it says 1 liter for this type of diff. And this is exactly what I drained out of it. So I'm going to give you the grade and the type of diff oil I'm going to be using. Let's go ahead to the next step. Alright guys, let's go and replace the diff oil. I've got exactly 1 liter. So let's open the filler cap. This is a 14mm Allen key. Now, just before we go any further, I wanted to give you the part number. I'm sure you've seen it on the screen. So this is GL5 75W90, and the part number is Febi 32590. So you've got a filler cap here, so we don't need to use a funnel or anything like that. Now I'm going to apply 60 Newton meters of torque. Just a quick update on these heat shields. These have been power washed with degreaser, and then completely resprayed with the correct high grade paint. This is high resistant zinc paint. I didn't show you the process of respraying because it's just boring, just cleaning them and spraying them, but I have restored them. And also what I have here is this great repair kit. You can see I went for the bigger kit. I think there are about 50 of these discs, and that's basically what you want to do in these cases where the hole has corroded so much that you can't actually put the standard screw there. Same as this here. This is obviously going to be a problem, so what I've done is I've got these which that will cover, and then you can bend it. They're rigid enough, but they're soft enough that you can bend, and as you can see it's made of the same material, so you can salvage these parts. Otherwise one of these is probably a couple £100, and some of them are not available. So you see, ideal application, something like that will just fit in perfect. Same as that there, and especially this one here. That's a really good example. See how wide that is? That'll just catch it and it'll properly fix that in place. I've replaced the screws that were on the chassis with stainless. I repaired that with stainless plates and screws. So again, there's another good example there. This is quite a big one and just perfect fit. So great kit. I'm not making money on these. I might put it in the description for anyone who wants to buy one of these. They're available on eBay, AliExpress, anywhere you fancy. So just a good idea for repairing and reusing these old heat shields. I want to show you a quick repair that I'm doing here on the Sill. So this here was completely rotten, and this is actually the correct orientation. That's the way it was. This was sitting this way. I had filled it with epoxy previously and some mesh, but it was a complete mess. So this is what I've done now. I've repaired this with a piece that I bent in place. I used a steel pipe to bend it over and create this profile here, the round bit. So basically I made a copy of this, which looks quite good, and hopefully when it's finished you're really not gonna notice this. And obviously you will fill it, I will sand it, and then I'll try and make it as good as I can. And yeah, that's another bit done. And by the way, as you can see by the color of this metal, this is stainless, 316 grade stainless, and it is the same thickness as the original steel, not 0.8. This is going to be a proper lifetime repair. Don't expect ever again to see rust on that part. So let's continue on with the next step. Have it welded and filler, so I'm still sanding, making it all blend in as best as I can. So I'm going to apply some primer, fill in all the small cracks and small holes, and we'll spray it with paint just to seal it. It's not obviously a finished product, but it's better than having the rusty panel here, so the car will get a full respray at some point. So this will just keep it going and we'll stop it from rusting. So let's continue on with the next step. I've tidied up the sill here. You can see the difference before and after it. This is what we had to deal with. Sorry, this can't focus on the camera. Absolutely rusted. So this is being done now in stainless. It's not the prettiest, you can see from the reflection, but it is 80% much better than the way it was. Now the car will receive a final respray at some point, so this is just to stop it from rusting. Let me show you now how to replace these rubber boots, Driveshaft boots or CV joint boots, whatever you want to call them. So both are identical, so when you're buying the parts you can buy just two of these. These are Febi 36559, And as usual, Febi quality, it comes with all the hardware, the circlips, all the clamps, and a packet of grease as well, which this has leaked and had made a complete mess on both sides. So that's why we're going to replace these and fill them up with new grease. Now, how are you going to be able to do this? This is not serviceable, so you cannot remove this part from here. So what you're going to need to do is take this apart, take the circlip, pull this out, take this rubber boot out, and then this one as well. So slide it out the whole way out. And that's the only way to do it. Let's start by taking this metal panel out of here, and then we're gonna make a bit of a mess. There will be some grease, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. I placed a dirty rag here in place because I don't want to make a mess on my bench. I'm gonna bring you closer to show you how we're gonna go about this. So take this out. There is a circlip here. I'm gonna wipe this grease off, and then we will pull this joint out. So hopefully you will see a little bit better the circlip here. So let's take this out. Now we're gonna have to loosen these two steel clamps. I want to show you how to take these balls out of here to take the CV joint apart so you can clean the old grease. So just pull it out, turn it. I've already removed two of these, and then once you remove one or two, they will literally come out easy enough. So just pull the whole CV joint out, and you want to obviously clean all this as best as you can. There's no easy way to do this. You're gonna have to get your hands dirty and a couple of rags, so just clean up as best as you can. If you wanted to do it even better, which is what I'm gonna do later on, when I remove the bulk of the grease, I will actually dip them in some petrol or gas if you're in America. Clean them up really well, and then assemble the back again with fresh grease. I just want to show you how dry this grease is here. This is just awful. If I'm not going to be able to take this apart, I'm going to have to clean it with petrol, soak it in petrol, leave it overnight. Look, it's so dry, it's actually become lumpy. So I'm so glad we are doing this right now. I don't see an easy way to take this apart. I believe there is a place here where the sheet metal is joined to the cast. Unfortunately, it's going to be just too difficult, so I'm going to soak it in with petrol, clean it very well, and then apply new grease. Try and agitate it as best as you can before you leave it overnight, just to make it a little bit easier for all the grease to dissolve. And we may have to repeat this process several times, but we have to get this very, very clean in order to put the new grease in. Just a quick update on the rebuild of these drive shafts. I noticed two little holes, and when I poked them they actually became bigger and bigger. So what I had to do is I had to clean up the paint, and I had to weld them very gently on low amps with my MIG welder, and then I had to fill them again with epoxy filler. This is a JB Weld. So just to show you on the other one, exactly the same issue, and no wonder this drive shaft inside the grease is so dry. I'm surprised that it hasn't actually damaged the actual ball bearings inside and the drive shaft itself, or the CV joint. So these almost look like they're meant to be there, but believe me, they're not. This is a sealed unit and you're not meant to have any holes in it, otherwise the grease is going to fly out, which is exactly what happened on my car. There was loads of grease on the inside of the hub, and I did wonder where it came from, but then when I realized there were small holes, then yeah, I noticed the grease was dry as well. So I have rinsed this with petrol and thinners, and I have literally cleaned it as best as anyone can clean it. So I'm gonna let this dry and set, and then I'm gonna respray it again. But in the meantime, I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm not gonna wait on this to dry, so I will pack this with grease. And this is the grease that comes in the box. There is a part number for it, 02582, but again, this comes in the box. This is the box that I showed you earlier, so you don't have to worry about buying this separately. So pack this in, and then we're going to install the new boot with these steel clips, clamp them into place, and then we're going to move on to the next bit here and then seal that one as well. So hopefully at least by the end of this day we're going to have one properly functioning drive shaft, and then of course we're going to repeat the same process with this one. So let's continue on with this bit. I'm going to add the grease. Let's get started. I'm going to install this in here and then push it down. It does help if you apply a little bit of WD-40 or any kind of lubricant on the pipe, on the drive shaft itself. I'm going to move it on the third and the fourth hole here. I'm going to use a pair of these pliers and lock it into place. Okay, now let's install the other clip. I'm gonna assemble this here in place. I have put the bearings inside, and I want to show you the orientation. So this is basically what it looks like when it's clean, and there are some cuts on this part. This goes inside on the bottom. There's no really way to get it mixed up, because otherwise it won't go on the splines. And then just gently turn this bit at an angle, push the ball bearings. It did take me a little bit of time, but I didn't want to waste your time with this, so you will work it out. It's basic mechanics. So what I will do now is I have filled this part with grease on the back, and then I've left half of the tube to put on the top, but I want to squeeze these clamps in place. Okay, these are both done. Now I'm going to put some grease in here. What I will recommend, now this is up to you, but this here is slightly out of shape, so what I will do is I'm going to apply a little bit of Sill silicone, and then I'm going to install it in place, or you could also install the silicone on the actual drive shaft itself. So I'm gently going to apply it here, just a thin layer. I'm putting quite a lot here, but I will spread it, so don't think that that's what I'm going to put on all sides. The excess of the grease, I put it into this cap. Now when I close this should seal in place. And that's one dry shaft finished. I'm just gonna respray everything with chassis paint. I will protect obviously these clamps and the rubber because I want to keep it nice and clean, but the rest I will spray with chassis paint again just to make it look nice. I'll do the same with the next one. I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to bore you to death. It's the same process on the other side, and I'll see you later on in the installation process. I wanted to update you on where I've got with the restoration. Just want to take you through the underneath of the car before we start assembling all the components. I have sprayed underneath with chassis paint and then 2 coats of grey stone chip just to match the rest of the car, and I have redone the brake lines. So these are copper, nickel, zinc. This is an alloy which is better than the pure copper, has a firmer brake feel, and it doesn't corrode like the steel pipes. So what I want to show you here is this has completely been brought back to bare metal, resprayed with chassis paint, a couple of coats, and the brake lines of course have been replaced as well. And I have sealed every single bit of rust with Brunox. 2 coats, actually in some places I put 3 coats of Brunox. And this is the transmission tunnel here and where the prop shaft sits. Before I install any of the drivetrain components, I'm going to put all the plastic covers in place. They have also been cleaned, power washed and resprayed with the same type of paint, and it looks fairly matte, has a nice finish. It looks shiny here on the camera because I have so much light. I've got LED lights including a head torch, but as you can see how high I went with the paint. I would say just above this line here that you're seeing there was no corrosion, but I just went a little bit higher than that. Oh, anything that was wrong underneath here, including the jacking points. And by the way, I have redone all these with stainless steel, so this will never ever rust again. All the jacking points, all 4 jacking points have been completely rebuilt with heavier gauge of stainless steel rather than the thin material that was there in the first place. And it's I mean, I've tried my best. Also, these fuel lines were cleaned up, then treated with Brunox and then sprayed with the black chassis paint. So hopefully you get the idea. So just before I install the rear subframe, the entire complete unit, I'm gonna put the plastic covers in place, and then we will put the rear axle and then assemble the rest of the components. Obviously we will have some covers to go in first before I put the subframe, and I have restored them as well. We're going to share some footage from the next part, which is the actual assembly process. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.